Thanks everyone. Last session, I'm sure everybody wants to catch their Saturday night drink. So do I. But I'm going to try and basically capture the essence of this session, which is creating an online brand. I think it's a extremely challenging topic which has been given, because it's like saying how do you create a business, because brand is equal to business. But I'll try and stick to the brief and try and keep the context alive. Let's first start with saying what is really the difference on the internet between a good versus not so good online retail brand. Now, here's an example of a mobile phone being retailed on a platform A versus platform B. Both the platforms look exactly the same, and the mobile phone which is being sold on the platform also is exactly the same. Most cases the price is also the same. But why does a user buy from platform A versus platform B? And what's the core essence of the business architecture which is different between the two businesses? So I'm going to start with the core economics of good versus bad. So in the first case, there are 100 people walking into your online shop, and of the 100, 5 people are buying. Whereas in the next case, where I've actually hidden the brand, everything is looking the same. Of the 100 people, only one buyer. Okay, so which means that simple financials, if I were to look at, in the first case, your cost of selling that mobile phone per buyer is 40 rupees, and another case it's 200 rupees. So what's really happening is that this particular brand is stuck. 200 rupees, if it were to look at its margin, it could be perhaps either losing 50-60 rupees or just about breaking even, or maybe even losing minus 100. Whereas if you look at the other case, the platform could be making 150 to 200 rupees and going back and redeploying it on acquiring more traffic, increasing reach, and on the other side further building out the brand. So that's really the core difference between a good and a bad brand, and this virtuous cycle is very difficult for an average brand to defend, and all the more reason it becomes extremely critical to create a good brand. However, before we talk about creating a good brand, the core holy grail of internet retailing is the price, selection, convenience equation. So these are like graphic equalizers, right? So when I guess there are a lot of people in this room who are into the offline retail business. So when you're like starting off a business, you need to say either I'm going to give an awesome price which will attract traffic and consumers, or you need to say that I'm going to start with giving a selection which is not available anywhere. For example, I am going to be the largest auto accessories website on the internet. Massive selection, more selection than anything in Karol Bagh or Lajpat Nagar auto accessories market. That's the second way where you could say that I'm going to invest. Third is, I'm going to deliver a car stereo to you at your doorstep within 12 hours, and it's going to get fitted for free. That's the convenience, right? So when you're obviously, if you are high on all of them, then you obviously become Amazon, right? But when you're starting off, when you're thinking of your brand, you need to say that where do you position yourself? Do you position yourself on price? Do you position yourself on selection, and at what level, right? This is almost like, I'm sure most of you guys have used graphic equalizers in old world stereos, right? It's that equalization and then perceptually mapping where do you want to be. I mean, let me tell you, this seems theoretical, at times boring, and at times lack of gut feel, but mapping of this has always worked excellently for a lot of retailers across the world. However, it's obviously the story is not that simple, right? We may like to simplify by breaking up into small parts, but there are many things to be done to create a retail brand that is marketing with analytics, social media. It's not just about putting up a Facebook page. Partnerships and alliances is a very critical piece, because you always want to find those engines out there where you can ride. Remember, Google became very big because it rode Yahoo in the early days, right? Microsoft in the 80s rode IBM, right? So you always need to, as an online retail brand, want to find those big engines. If you do get traction, going above the line to create trust is important. Platform in the middle is really critical. If your user experience sucks, you do anything or whatever, it won't work. You need to build your trust processes, for example, payments and settlements. That's very, very critical amongst both your buyers, sellers, vendors, and of course, delivery and service, right? The fulfillment systems, your CRM, and not just CRM that, you know, hey, where is my order, and then somebody answering. It's also backed with analytics. And then obviously all of this that you do, you're supposed to measure it through certain matrices. Everything has to be measured on a daily level through matrices, some of it which I'll share. So from here on, I'm going to spend the next 3 to 5 minutes sharing some examples of what we mean by saying each point, right? How did we in one of our businesses use social media? So for example, today's date, a lot of us, when we think of social media, we say Twitter, let's put a tweet which says 50% off on t-shirts, or let's put Facebook, 2-night, 3-day package for Goa. Indeed, that's important. You're communicating with your audience, but that's not the game change. When we talk about social media, it's about how do you interact with the audience and how do you leverage their friends? How do you leverage the social graph? So this is an example which enabled our business to have a massive reach of 500,000 very active people, actually helped us really build the brand on Facebook and amongst the audiences, and the right kind of audience. Our focus, of course, with this brand was to go first step to amongst the youngsters. So this is a VIP service, which basically said that you travel with us, you come in, we're going to give you a VIP service. So a photograph is taken, and a photograph is taken with these hostesses. Then these hostesses take you to a very nice chauffeur-driven car and put you there. Now, it's not just about the photograph which is being taken and about the fact that you're made to look like celebrities at that Mumbai airport or Delhi airport, which is great, but it's about the next step, which is that your pictures are getting put on Facebook, and then they're getting tagged, and then your friends of friends are either liking or are engaging with the whole thing. So as a result, rather than just a one-to-many kind of a communication, it suddenly started reaching friends of friends of friends, which basically helps this activity become massive. So in some cases, a particular audience was reaching out to 5 or 10,000 people, and that was also a great feedback loop for that buyer of ours to be able to get recognized. There's a lot of element of expression also in here. So essentially, the point I'm trying to make here is that it's not just about a brand communicating to its fans or to its followers, but it's also about the brand trying to use the audience's social graph for a relevant viral, right? So whenever we think of Facebook or Twitter or any social media vehicle, we don't just think of an individual, we think of an individual and his friends and his relationships. In the absence of that, I think social media just doesn't deliver the value that it can. So that was one of the first examples which has succeeded for us. I'm sure there are many other manifestations which can succeed for your brands. Second thing which we did very successfully was partner marketing. So we partnered with banks, offline retail, coffee chains, and this is an example of partnership with MasterCard. So MasterCard basically communicates this to all its member bases, and not just communicates this to all its member bases, but also publishes this in the newspaper, publishes this via bill statements, and as a result, we are able to reach out to a very large audience without a single penny. This is another case of one of the ATM machines, whether I think Yes Bank or Axis Bank, where while you're taking out the money, you get the offer coupons right there. Now You can imagine the number of ATM machines and the number of transactions happening at the ATM machines. And then some more examples here of, again, partnerships. These are people, these are the right audiences, right, who transact. And these are the audiences who transact, and we obviously want to reach out to them. This is an example of Cafe Coffee Day, Barista, and Big Bazaar. Again, transacting audience, they definitely travel, they buy hotels, and we wanted to reach them. So basically, the mathematics of partnerships is that the access of audience, the access of usage of the media, the access of you being available through various media vehicles that these brands have published you on, finally is much greater than actual user acquisition cost that you would have had to spend through other channels. So that's the core mathematics, and that worked extremely well for us. Third was user education. One-to-one communication with people at the airports. How many of you have seen the Go Ibibo kiosks at the airport? Yeah, I mean, and has anyone ever interacted at the airports? Anyone? Okay. So why was this being done? Number one, to create trust. Number two, to interact with the audience and to educate the audience. How does the system work, and what's unique and different about the system? We reached out to I think about 5 million people, and close to 100,000 paid transactions happened through this activity, which made it, again, if we do the backward mathematics, made it extremely efficient. Some more examples here, and we did this in about close to 20 or 25 airports in the country, and again, a great way for us to build the brand in an unconventional manner rather than just advertising. And then finally, the most important thing, how many of you are aware of the concept of Net Promoter Score? Yeah, I think consumer, I haven't really put our score here, but consumer is the biggest market here. So if you have 100 buyers, the concept is if you have 100 buyers, and assuming that 70 buyers are okay with you, happy with you, they won't say anything. They won't tell anyone, right? And then you have 15 or 18 buyers who are super excited with you, super excited. And these are the buyers who are going to tell their friends, wow, I mean, I really enjoyed my buying experience from your website. Whereas 12 are really unhappy with you, that these guys screw up. So if you were to do, your nullifier effect is a +2. +2 is a positive Net Promoter Score. So the bottom line is that one of the key metrics for us to constantly chase is that, are you a positive Net Promoter Score or a negative Net Promoter Score? And this is an example of clearly showing us a path that we are on the right path to a positive Net Promoter Score, where people are beginning to feel excited and are beginning to communicate about it either through Twitter or through word of mouth. But Net Promoter Score is a very important element while you're building your online brand, and this is where consumer, which is your biggest, at the end of the day, biggest market here, everything else alone. And finally, of course, platform and user experience. Look, one point is that with the mobile growing, you cannot say that I won't be on Android, I won't be on iOS. If any internet retail brand out here is not on all these platforms, it's basically it's like saying that I'm not accessing 50% of the audience. So access across platforms is a very critical piece, and the platform should be highly usable, should be very easy. And that's again a very critical part of brand building, because if you're on different platforms, you will be on different marketplaces like the Android and the iOS marketplace. That also is brand building for you. Integrated CRM and analytics engine. So a lot of people actually divorce these two. Integrating these two really creates a lot of value. So you really know that what is happening, your incoming calls coming, how is it affecting your transactions, how is it affecting your lifetime values, and how is it affecting your repeat transactions. And this integrated piece is very, very critical. Anyone building online retail brands and businesses should definitely invest in this piece. And then finally, while you're doing all this, what do you look at? How do you know that you are doing right, or how do you know that you're doing wrong? So one of the very important barometer is, which I look at all the time, is the volume of search query or search query volumes on Google. Are people trying to find your brand on Google, right? And this is this you can find through either traffic estimator tool of Google, or you could also use Google India Trends. Okay, so this is a critical piece. What's the volume? And this curve is extremely important. You can look at it in correlation to many other insights. Then the other very critical piece is, if you have a web store or an online store or a marketplace, is that how is the movement of free direct organic traffic versus procured purchase traffic, right? And let's say the x-axis is time, right? Apologies for not creating that axis. So obviously in the beginning, a large portion would be procured traffic. But as you go along, you need to ensure that you're tracking that your own organic traffic, your direct type-in traffic, people hunting for your navigational query on Google, people hunting for your brand, that is beginning to grow. And if that's not happening, you need to go back to the drawing board. This is like really, really critical. I mean, if after few months, 18 months, if you see that this is, the two color shades are not changing, there is a super problem. Then of course conversion rates, right? So there are obviously different benchmarks, but we believe in horizontal plays, the conversion rates should be at least 4%. In vertical plays should touch 8%. Obviously in the beginning you'll start with 1 or 2%, but again, if the conversion rates, everybody understands the concept of conversion rates, okay? Like people walking into my shop, how many of them bought? As simple as it is. And if this conversion rate is not growing while you are doing all the right pieces of building brand, then there's something totally wrong with your business. You need to just go back to the drawing board. These are some benchmarks that people like us use, and if there are some disturbances vis-a-vis these kind of conversion rates, you know, we are worried on that particular day. And then of course in the short term, you know, the repeat buyer to new buyers, right? In the short term, let's say in the first year of your business, you're procuring, you're acquiring a lot of audience. So it's really critical for you to see that how is the two breaking up, right? And you know, my sense is that over a period of 12 to 16 months, close to 55% of it should be on a monthly basis or a daily basis should be driven, your transaction should be driven through repeat. Again, if that's warped, something wrong, right? Stop there and start rethinking that there's something wrong with your business. And in the long term, if you were to look at the cumulative base, right? So let's say somewhere down the line, let's say 18 months down the line, you've gone and procured 5 lakh member base. Of the 5 lakh member base, in your 14th or the 16th month, at least 14% people should be repeat buyers, okay? And let's say you've gone into the business 24 months plus, minimum 22% of the base should be repeat buyers. I mean, this is like simple, and obviously there's a lot of arithmetic behind this, but if you were to yourself do the nuts and bolts of it, you'll say that this is how a business becomes financially, fundamentally viable. So in conclusion, your brand health means direct traffic and organic traffic growth, your conversion rate growth, your bounce reduction, your net promoter score, and repeat buyer. That's really the holy grail of creating a good online brand, and that good online brand gets translated into all the mathematics that I showed you. Happy to take questions. Yes.
Has to be very, very cost efficient.
Yeah.
Except the example that you gave regarding a particular social media example where it is easy to amplify.
Yeah.
Other examples that you give for brand promotion are quite cost effective, are like cost intensive, and also need some kind of contacts to be able to do those kind of partnerships.
Yeah.
So what would you like to recommend for a company with a limited kind of a budget, who's a startup, maybe with $30,000 worth of investment as an angel? So, I mean, sorry, from its own pocket. So for that kind of a company, how should that company go about building a brand in the initial months?
Yeah, so I think first,
because that is the most important period
yeah,
for a
absolutely,
brand to.
absolutely. So first and foremost is that, you know, I have not shown you any example where we've actually spent massive monies, right? We've gone to television, but remember we went to television after we had set these metrics right. Okay, all the things that we did, for example, activities with banks. So the way we do the math is that, look, if my simple math is if I'm selling something worth 100 rupees and my commission or margin on that is 20 rupees, can I give 10 rupees back to ICICI Bank's customer for them to promote me? I think that's a fair thing, right?
No, you are right in that, but ICICI Bank will only be accepting 10 rupees if you give him a good volume.
No, this is not just about, it's about giving the right value proposition, right? And then the question comes, what's happening on your supply side? It's about the right value proposition. It's about the right proposition between ICICI Bank, its customers, and your platform. Again, the example that I took of social media, that doesn't cost much, right?
I agree with regarding social media.
And that's a very, very important part of the traffic source, right? Again, we can talk about SEO, right? That doesn't cost much. So I think your question is what advice, how do we build traction, right?
For the startup.
So first year, so here's what was the mistake most internet companies made in the first year? Why are we in a situation where people are not getting the series B, C, D? Because everybody thought that they're going to become very rich very fast, right? I think first year, nobody's asking you to start doing massive Google AdWords. Nobody's asking anyone to do massive television advertising. I think first year, the metrics that I talked about, one needs to set those right? And that's really what's one needs to focus on, right? So even if you've got a community of 2,000 people, which I'm assuming if you're not able to get 2,000 or 5,000 people, then there's something wrong with your value proposition in any case. But even if you have a small community, but if they can show, if you can prove that they're showing a behavior of repeating, they're seeing value in what you bring to the table, I think then you are in business, right? Then the clock starts ticking, right? Then after that, raising massive VC monies definitely makes sense, right? But nobody is suggesting through this whatever little theory of mine to say that spend massive monies in year one. The communication here is that use as many organic tools, right? Use tools which are not conventionally available. I haven't even talked about AdWords here, right? I mean, indeed, we all do AdWords. That's the easiest thing, right? Take out your credit card and start buying, right? And then you start looking at your conversions, right? I'm saying getting the basic foundations right? So how's your conversion metrics looking? Are you being able to pull organic traffic, and then organic to little bit of paid that you're doing, is the ratio getting right? Are people showing repeat behavior or not? I think those are the key things. Nobody's suggesting out here that spend $1 million or $2 million. Absolutely not. I mean, all these suggestions that I'm giving, obviously assuming that there is some competence you guys have, right, in whatever you're doing, is can happen in like $5,000, 5 lakhs, 10 lakh rupees. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
How do you analyze it? How do you come to know about it? Because I've understood the way you're working it out. Let's say if I'm a consumer of Ibibo and I'm very excited about the product and I had a brilliant experience. Now I may share it with 20 people, right?
Sorry,
I may share that experience with 20 people and tell them this is a brilliant, I had a brilliant experience, etc. How is it that it culminates to brings this information to your knowledge? Because if there are complaints, I can understand that somebody, you have an irritated consumer who might write to you, so you have some data to say these number of people are unhappy with our service. There may not be number of people who would actually respond to you saying that we had a brilliant experience. So how do you come to know about this?
Exactly. So that's an awesome question, right? So what is net promoter? It's a very simple concept, right? I mean, Amazon uses it and a lot of global companies use it. We copy it. It's not invented by us. So essentially, again, I'll repeat. So if there are 100 buyers, right? So first is how do you reach out to them? So obviously, net promoter score will come out if you have some buyers. So assuming in the year 3 you have, in the month 3 you have 1,000 buyers. So those 1,000 buyers typically you would communicate. So the way we do it is that I am XYZ, I need your help to tell me how I can improve. And the only question we ask is, would you promote my web property? Would you promote my proposition to your friends? That's the question. Now, what we are willing to, what we are basically wanting to understand is that how many people will take the initiative to press the radio button to say, yes, I will promote, and how many of them are saying, no, I won't promote, and how many of them are being neutral, right, at the end of the day. So the thesis that we arrive out of this is that a large percentage of population are in general okay, so happy. They won't go out of the way to say anything. But there is a chunk of population who's very unhappy, disgruntled, and they will go out of their way to put things on Twitter. They will go out of the way to tell people that this service really sucks. And then there is another bunch of people who would say that I love the service. When we say there is a positive net promoter score, that the people who are really excited outshoots the people who are really disgusted. Or when we say when it's a negative promoter score, we find out that more people are disgusted with the service. So this is a health check you got to do every 3 months, every 2 months, right? And it is kept super simple. I mean, it's as simple as sometimes putting it on the top fold that would you promote our web property to your friends, or as simple as sending an email communication or an SMS communication. What we've seen is that when there are very, very low responses in a particular business, that means typically community is not even engaged. That means that business is gone, dead. When we see very large responses of disgusted people, we feel, wow, okay, we're making some mistake, but at least this community is engaged. And when we obviously see that the balancing is good and we are becoming positive, that means we've hit the sweet spot. There's a question there.
Hi, my name is Bharat. I guide e-commerce companies on strategy.
Can you speak louder, please?
Yeah, sure. My name is Bharat Gera. I represent a company called Intentry. We work with a number of e-commerce companies on conversion optimization. My question is, how do you improve conversion rates, and what is your experience on conversion rates for the internet properties?
So which property?
How do you improve conversion rates?
Yeah, so I think, conversion rates, so there are some very direct ways of improving conversion rate, right? So in fact, one of the core objectives of this presentation was to say that at the end of the day, you want healthy conversion rates. So conversion rates get improved. One is you're obviously building your brand, but on the other hand, during the flows, right? So your checkout process, your payment flows, your latency of your website, your search, your selection, your price. So there are, like, again, hundreds of elements that you need to look at to improve the conversion rate. There is unfortunately not a single answer to say that you do this and conversion rates will improve. It is iterative process, and there is a lot of that's how a company creates a secret sauce, and that's what differentiates between a company A and company B, which is both selling the same sari, for example, right? So that's how you really chase the conversion rate. But it is a factor of many aspects, right? So as an example, if you are selling a mobile for 100 rupees more than a company B, your conversion rates automatically will be lower. On the other hand, if during checkout, if your payment gateway fails, your conversion rates would be lower, right? Another example could be that the organic traffic coming to your landing page, if that landing page is not relevant, then your conversion rates would be again lower. So there are, like, many aspects, and one very important underlying aspect is the brand, which means trust, right? At the end of the day, when a customer is parking monies with you to be able to get a particular product, if there is trust, then again the conversion rates would be higher. So which is why one of the key aspects is that you continuously work on your brand to be able to create that trust. So we do a lot of things, right, on conversion rates. We do a lot of heat mapping of our website. Where is the consumer bouncing? Why didn't he press buy now? If he pressed buy now, why didn't he go to the next step? At the next step, why did he bounce out? So you have to really track. It's extremely granular exercise, but that's very one of the most critical exercises of any internet business.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Thanks for the presentation. My question is based on customer acquisition. My question is on customer acquisition cost. Considering the principle that I'm an e-commerce player, I'm in the industry for a long term. No, it's not a short-term overnight success thing. Is there any rationale or any basis of what the customer acquisition cost should be like? Because there are big players who are spending anywhere upwards 3,000, 4,000 rupees to acquire a particular customer.
Yeah.
Now, is there any rationale at all? I mean, a percentage of sales forecast or historical data, I don't know.
No, so first is you have to obviously get started in the beginning to build some data points, okay, and especially if you're a new player. But the way the core rationale for customer acquisition cost is as follows, right? If you have a buyer, and this I'm talking direct customer acquisition, right, from a performance channel like Google or something of that sort. If I have a buyer and my buyers are buying 3 times from me in a year, and if that buyer gives me a bottom line of 200 rupees during each transaction, and he buys from me 3 times a year, that means he gives me 600 rupees. If your customer acquisition cost is more than 600 rupees, then there's something wrong. There's something fundamentally wrong with the business. Okay. So the way you play this game is as follows. Year 1, you say that, I'm not talking about the first 3 months, right, because you're really building data points, and I'm assuming that people are intelligent enough to build data points, right? You're throwing darts in the dark, not even 3 months, maybe first 6 months, right? But let's say you've now got your data points. So the first thing what you want to do is that at the lifetime value, you want to turn positive. That's your first step. Okay. Then the second step you want to say is that after I've turned positive on my lifetime value, I want to definitely be positive on lifetime value plus my logistics costs plus my payment costs. And that you need to do really, really fast. Then the third step you say is, okay, I'm good now. Everything is looking good, and as I showed you the traffic slide, I'm now beginning to get more direct traffic because I'm beginning to deliver good value to the customers. Then the third step for you to do is to say that, look, at a unit economic level, I want to turn positive. And that's, once you've done that, you are in business. You are a rock star then. That's it. And that's hard to get there, but that is a mistake which a lot of folks in the industry have made because of the euphoria which happened in the last 3 years' time. But that's really the key thing, right? I mean, look, I think the nice thing which this forum is doing is trying to get offline retailers online. Just think the way how an offline retailer, the guy who's been working on that business in the offline retail has been working. He looks at every penny, right? You got to do the same thing on the internet, and then that's it, right? Everything else will follow. I hope I answered your question. Okay, that will be a last question. There's a lady there. Ladies first, right? That's okay. I can take it offline. Yeah. Can you?
Sorry, I have a bad throat, so I couldn't shout. In the time that you've spent in building your business, what's if you can share with us 1 or 2 shocks that you've had, where something didn't go according to plan or a disappointment?
Yeah, look,
Thanks.
I'll be honest. Every day out of the 10 things we do, half of them don't go according to the plan. That's the reality of internet, right? But internet is all about iteration, and even though we understand the business like as if we even in a subconscious state, yet lots of things go wrong. I think so. A couple of shockers, right? I can give 1 or 2 examples. So I think this whole concept of trust, we think of it as an English word, right? Trust, but it has huge ramifications and implications. So one of the problems that we saw in early days, this I'm talking especially in my marketplace business, which is traders.com, it's newer than my travel business, is gamification, right? So sellers and buyers gaming each other. I think that was really, really shocking. I mean, the heights of ethics was very, very disturbing, right? As a result, we had to actually put a lot of energy to create our engine in such a manner that people don't game us. So here's how the gamification happened, and that's happened not just actually to us. For us, it was a realization from our own business, but I think it happened across industry-wide. So let me take an example. So here's a mobile phone, Samsung Galaxy, okay. Market price of the mobile phone, 12,000 rupees, right? Then we say to the customers, look, we want you to try this Samsung Galaxy phone because Samsung is participating with us to promote it. Here's a 2,000 rupees voucher, right? And as you know, Traders is a marketplace of sellers and buyers. So sellers start gaming it and actually buying back. And that was really, really shocking, right? So rather than working with us to develop the platform, sellers are buying back, right? And that was actually pretty disheartening, more than shocking, right? So look, we get these shocks all the time, right? That's what keeps life exciting. And you know, some of the things we solve through technology, some of the things we solve through behavior, basically. Thanks. I think that was the last question. I'm here for the next 5-10 minutes, so you can catch up with me. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.